I'm going to prepare the file in Canvas desktop. Now you can only do this method in the desktop version. So first of all I'm going to import the file. This is a free one I downloaded and it's only for my own personal use, so that's fine. I'm going to resize it. The computer had already resized it because it was a bit bigger than the mat. I'm going to make it 90mm square and maintaining the aspect ratio, that does that. I'm going to place it 60mm across and 30mm down. First thing I want to do is prepare a cutout. So I'm going to group those two and create an offset line, a 1mm outward, making sure that it's not just doing the outer edge but all of them. I'm just going to turn off the wreath, the colours, the foil, what I'm going to foil, and now I've got the two all the layers for the cutout file. Now I'm just going to ungroup them and put aside the outside layer. With the inside layers I'm going to select them, go to my edit menu and subtract. Just lay it somewhere around about where I want it because I'm going to now turn back on the wreath and the berries. Just going to highlight them all and center them diagonally and horizontally, and just make sure that there's 60mm in and 30mm down. That's only for when I'm cutting, just to make it a bit easier. Okay, next I'm going to name my layers, start naming them. I'm going to group the cutout layer and call it cutout, because you can call it anything you want, it's just a matter of knowing what the layers are. I'm going to ungroup the other two because they've got to go separately to the computer, to the ScanNcut. So I'm just going to call it berries and wreath. Now, if you want to, you can select your cutout and colour it. So selecting the cutout, going up to the colour, it's going to colour it yellow. Can't see what I'm looking at there, so I'm going to right mouse click, go to arrange and send it to the back. So now I can see it behind it. Okay, the next thing I want to do is to type the word joy, because I'm planning on putting that across the wreath. So I'm going to select text, type the word joy in uppercase because that's what I want it. I'm going to change the font to Ecuador, which is one of the built-in fonts for desktop. You can of course use the built-in fonts or the fonts on your own computer. Okay, so that's the font I want. Now I'm just going to size it. Now because of the colours there, I'm just going to colour that another colour so I can see it. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can just see that it's sitting. Oh no, I didn't zoom in, but just see that it's sitting right. Now when I've got that, I'm fine. Now I want to layer this a little bit, so I want to cut some foam. So here I'm going to create an offset line, but this time it's going to be an inward one, not an outward one, and I'm going to do it at about 2.5mm. I don't want it too close to the edge. So click OK. It's going to move that off to the side. Now it has picked up a couple of little pieces I don't want, so going up to the group, I'm just going to highlight each shape in turn and delete that one, and I can pretty much pick the other one. Yes, I'm going to delete that. The others stay grouped together, but I haven't got those little pieces. So that's the word joy done. The other thing I wanted to put on here was another little card saying to the world. So first of all, I'm going to create a rectangle. Now I measured this in inches. I do play between my units of measurements, between millimeters and inches, but this I measured in inches. So I'm going to change my units to inches, and I'm going to change this to 3 inches by 5 inches, 0.5 inches, and I forgot to turn off the aspect ratio, so I'm just going to change it to 0.5. That's the size I want. Now selecting my text tool, I'm going to type to the world, still coming up in the font I just used. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to change the font, and I'm going to go to this time to just the Antique Oakland, which is another one of the built-in fonts for the canvas. Now holding the shift key and going to the corner, I'm just downsizing it to about the size it needs to be. That looks pretty much right. Now I'm going to select the two and align vertically and horizontally, just what I want. Now I'm going to do more than one of these because I'm going to do several cards. So what I'm going to do is group those two because it just makes it a bit easier. But first I changed the to the world to text because I'm going to foil that. Then I've grouped. Okay, now I'm going to copy and paste. Control and C and Control and V will do that. They're all grouped together. We're going to ungroup them in a minute, but for the time being we're going to go back to our edit menu and we're going to space them. So going down to the distribute space, I'm going to put it at 0.5 and distribute vertically. A little bit too far, so 0.25 and do it again. Yeah, that's about where I want it. Now I'm just going to select the rectangles by holding down the Shift key and ungroup. Sorry, first of all I'm going to ungroup them all because I just want to, they've got to go to the ScanNcut in separate pieces. So just ungrouping them all. Now I'm going to select each of the rectangles holding down the Shift key and I'm going to group them. It's easier to do the rectangles first. So I'm going to the groups layer and group them and call it rectangle or rectangles. Oh no, rectangle, there we go. Okay, now I'm just going to, it's very hard to pick up the other files while that's there, so I'm just going to move that off to the side a bit by selecting them and moving them away. That won't matter because they're all perfectly positioned. Now, selecting those, I'm going to group that, and I'm going to call that to the world. Now, to get them all back so that I've got the cuts and the foiling just where I need them, I'm going to put them back together roughly. Select both and into the edit screen and highlight, align horizontally and vertically. Now they're perfectly situated. Now I have everything that I want to cut. I've named them all. I just need to change the berries to a draw file and the wreath to a draw file. And now I can turn off the layers just simply by toggling on the little eye. You can see everything's going off until I've just got the wreath. That's what I'm going to foil first. So I'm going to send that off to my machine. It's telling me the hidden objects won't be transferred. That's fine. Okay, when I've done the wreath, I'm going to come back in here, toggle off the wreath, toggle on the berries, and send those. So again, transferring, again, it's not sending the hidden objects. Now, because I've got the foiler in, the next thing I'm going to do is to the world. So I'm going to toggle that on. I'm going to move this around again to my 60 down and 30 in because I know where to find it. It's roughly an inch down, a little more than an inch down and 2 inches in, but it means that I can set the paper in my machine on the 1 inch and 2 inch and get it right. Okay, so that's where I want it, so I'm now going to transfer that to my machine. Okay, so I want them back down they were, so just using the Control and Z or the undo, I'm putting them back down there where they were. Okay, so we can now turn them off. We've done all our foiling, so the next thing we're going to do is some cutting. So first of all, we'll cut the wreath. So I'm turning on the cutout, which I know is the wreath cutout, transferring that to my machine, but I know where to place this on my cutting mat because I have put it in the same position. Okay, so the cutout's done. Now we're going to do the rectangle, and again, because I placed it at the 60 and 30, I can do that now, and it will cut in the right place. So they're going off to cut out the rectangles, of course, after I've laid that on my machine. Okay, Control and Z again and again. They're back where they need to be. So the next thing we're going to do is the joy. So we'll turn off everything else and just have a joy. Now I'm just going to put this up near the top, send that to my machine and cut that in Miri card. Again, it's telling me I won't send the hidden objects. And the last thing I want to do is the foam. So I'll turn off the joy, turn on the foam. Again, I'm going to just put it up near the top for cutting. Transfer that to my machine and cut the foam. Okay, now that I've done all that, I'm going to save it. Now there are two ways you can save from Canvas Desktop. So I've turned everything on so it's all visible. I can export it as an FCM, which I'll do first, and I'm just going to call it Wreath. I'm putting it in the same folder that I had the original free file in. Now I'm going to go to save as a Canvas working file. So again, I'm going to call it Wreath. But there's a difference when you import them. So let's go now to a new mat. And I'm going to first of all open the Canvas workspace file. When you bring that in, you can see I've still got colours. The layers are all still named. They've expanded out, but it's only a click to get them back where I want them. So I can see everything just as I created it. However, now let's look at the FCM file. So I'm going to go to a new mat. I'm going to import from my computer, and I'm just going to import the FCM file. You can see that you don't get the colours, that the layers are all separated into every little bit, but that's okay in and of itself, but they're not named, and so sending it to and from the machine can get difficult. Now, you can rename the groups, but just by turning off or on, you can see which group it is and rename it. But you'd have to do that every time. So if you're going to do this project several times, I would save it as a Canvas workspace file. If you were going to do it as just a once-off, then an FCM would be fine. Although I would probably save both as a backup. And there you go. Okay, today I'm going to use my We Are Memory Keepers metal magnetic mat. It comes with the mat and 2 long magnets and the 2 short ones. It is recommended for the SDX but not the CM series. I'm not quite sure why it's not recommended for the CM series, because I think it would feed through, but I don't have a machine to test it, so I can't say. Now, I've adhered this to a brand new mat because I intend on keeping this solely for this purpose. So that made it easy for me to decide. Now, you can just lay your paper down and so forth, but I'm going to adhere mine. And the reason I'm doing that is because this is going to be foiled twice and then cut, so I've got to move it to another mat. So I want to be sure that I start and keep it in the same place. So using the grid on the mat, I'll be able to do that. And then when I get to the cutting mat, I'll be able to put it in the same position. Okay, so we just lay down our foil. Lay down one side of the mat, smooth it out. Lay down the other magnet. You can put it top and bottom as well. Now, as I said, you don't need to adhere the paper. It will just stay in place with the magnets. Just going to do that a bit on that one. But because I want it in the same position, that's the only reason I've done it. So I'm going to retrieve the data, which I've sent to the machine. I've got my quill warming up. Now, because I did this in Canvas Workspace Desktop, there is no fill. So I need to go into the edit screen, I need to go into the object edit, I need to go to fill, turn it on, it is on, make sure that it's the full fill. Okay, okay. I'm just going to, okay, again, I'm just going to scan that and make sure that I've got it where I need it. Better to be sure than sorry. If I have to move something, I'll be moving the paper because I've got the pattern set to come down in the same place, and I can see that I haven't got it in the right place. So let's just move that up a bit. And a little bit. Okay. You could of course scan that before you put the foil down so that you just know you've got your paper in the right place. But that's the advantage of having the scanner. You can make sure, 100% sure, it's where you want it. So I'm going to scan it again. Just going to move that just a fraction and we should be right. Now, because this is done on the desktop version, I'm just making sure I've got my fill on, got it filled in. Okay, 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 okay. I'm going to select draw. I'm going to attach my blade, or my foil quill rather, down into there. It's been heated up now, just on there so the cord stays out of the way, and press start. Okay, so that's going to take 7 minutes. We'll come back shortly. It's just coming up to the finish now. I need to be careful not to remove the mat or move my cardstock because I want to foil the berries in exactly the right place. It always feels strange to me to say foiling the berries because Berry is my surname and it doesn't sound right, but there you go. So this is just about finished. I can see the advantages of using a metal plate, and if you've looked at my earlier videos you will see that I've used a different sort of metal plate before. You get a better pressure on the foiling. Okay, so being careful not to move my cardstock, I'm just going to remove those. This tape down with them just in case. I'm going to leave that side there. Pull that over a bit. Okay, so that way I haven't moved it. So I'm going to go there, I'm going to go home. I've already sent the pattern there, so I'm going to retrieve it. This is fairly quick, it's just a small amount of foiling. Now again, I have to go into the edit, object edit. It should still be set, but I always check the fill is on, chosen is full fill. That's okay, that's okay, that's okay, okay, okay. I'm going to draw and I'm going to start. Now I'm just doing this on normal pressure. There's no increase in the pressure. Let me move that out of the way. This is only going to take a minute or less than a minute to do the little berries, and then I can show you the result. So the important things are, make sure you don't move the pattern on the machine, that it comes directly from your canvas workspace. Make sure that you don't move your cardstock or feed your mat out, because it just may move it slightly and you won't have it where you want it. I have experimented with colour on top of colour, so if you sort of go down that path, it works fairly well, and you do get a change in the colour. I have a sample here where I've done gold and silver, so you can just see that the silver goes over the gold. So it is possible to foil one colour over another. You get a shadow of it underneath. Okay, so this is finished. I can roll out my mat. I can turn off my foil quill down and just and there you have the foil done in the two colours. So very easy to do, just remembering not to remove your mat. Okay, I'm going to go to the home button. I've loaded my mat. I did put a little cross in the bottom left hand corner so I'd make sure I loaded this wreath the right way, because it's round, it's a little difficult to tell. So I'm going into retrieve data. It's got the cut file, so I'm going to scan and just make sure I've got everything where it should be and adjust it from here. Now, because I knew where to place the mat, the cardstock, it should be roughly in the right place, but it will need some fine tuning. So I'm going to go into the edit screen, into the zoom, and take it up to 200. Now it's fairly close, so I'm just going to move it over, maybe one more. This is tedious but necessary. Looks perfect. Okay, so that was fairly easy because I had it in virtually the right place. I knew which way was up. Okay, now this time we're going to cut. I don't need to do a test cut. This is cardstock that always cuts well, so I'm just going to press start. And you can come out and watch the machine do its thing. It's going to take less than a minute, so we'll just let it go. So the tips are, make sure you know which way is up. Always place your cardstock in the same place. It looks like I could have gone over just a fraction more, but we'll see how it goes when it cuts. Adjust. Use your zoom, go in, have a look, and play with it till you are happy. This is a fairly straightforward cut pattern. Okay. Gently lifting it up because it is kind of fragile. And there it is, cut. Bit hard to see, but I'll put it on a card and come back with it. Okay, now to do the other parts of the card. I've cut the joy from Miri card. I'm going to keep the cutout bit because that'll help me lay the letters out where they need to be. I'll just put that aside for the minute. Now, I'm going to use some Express It double-sided foam, so I'm going to press it down. You want a good sticky mat for this, or tape it down. Okay, you notice I didn't remove my mat because I'm putting it, it wasn't difficult in this place, in this case. So I'm going to retrieve the data. And there it is up there. You can still see my scan, but I'm not worried about that at the moment. I'm going to do a cut. I'm going to do a start. I'm just going to hold it gently with my hand just to make sure I haven't got a problem with it moving. It will probably do 3 cuts with this to get all the way through, but then it will pop out. It seems to be holding all right. We go with the 3rd cut. I'm always a bit dubious about cutting foam. I use it all the time, but once I started, that was it. It's always done now. Now, they just pop out. So there's the J, there's the O, and there's the Y. And using the double-sided, I can stick that onto the letters. Using the same principle, I've now done some words to also go on the card. Again, I use some repositional tape to hold it in place so I'd know where to put it on the mat. Because I've got it all here on the video, I'm just going to load the mat. And then adhere my piece. It's just a little bit easier for purposes of what I'm doing at the moment. Okay, so press OK, go to home, delete my patterns, retrieve the data, and I should come up with my little rectangles. And I do, so I'm going to scan again, just make sure they're in the right place. Oh, they look pretty good actually. Let's go back. I'm going to go into the edit screen, into that. These are grouped together so they will be easy to move and make sure they're all in the right place. So clearly they need to go across a little. Just making sure that it looks centered. Might go one more. They should all be right because they were right from canvas. Okay, that looks all right. Okay, okay. This time we're going to cut. And to do that, I'll need to put my blade in. And control the foil so it doesn't stay hot down there, burn something. Okay, so I've got my blade in, got my mat down. So just let that cut off. I did 4 because I'm going to do more of these cards. You could of course just do 1. And I'll just see if I can get that there so you can see it. So it's just foiled in the gold. Should look good on the card. So here's the finished card. I did put some Nouveau crystal drops on the berries just to give them a bit of dimension. You could also use glossy accents or something similar. I have layered it with foam dots to give it a bit of, I like a bit of dimension on my cards. Not sure if I'll do anything else to it, but I'd have to say I'm very happy with it all. Cut on this, foiled and cut on the ScanNcut. So easy.